Hi team, this is the first video in the Appendix 5 Financial Sustainability Worksheet video series. And in this video we will be going through these first three worksheets: the Financial Summary Worksheet, General Information, Target Section, OpEx Costs, as well as this worksheet, Average Inflation Rates, and finally Operational Costs as well. So in this regard, I'm going to start by filling out this worksheet with a community that I've made up that exists in Honduras. I'm going to say that there are 500 people, or it's 500 households, on average 5 family members each. We'll say that there's another 150 people in the community, and let's see, I'm also going to say it is 200 kilometers from the office. So this estimates round trip driving distance, so 200 kilometers to the community plus 200 kilometers back, 400 kilometers in total. We'll say that we're going to do one follow-up visit every year after transitioning the project to the community. The local currency, since this is Honduras, is the lempira. Average household income here is going to be 3,000 lempira. And I'm going to say 5% is the maximum that we want houses to be spending on water each month. Finally, an exchange rate of 24. And then I finally come to this cell, which is a bit different. And you can see that it's gray, as in we're no longer just entering or typing into the cell anymore. But instead, in order to input the inflation rate, it says to click to enter. So if I do so, it brings me right to this worksheet, which is, as a review, it's just the next one over. And instead of entering the inflation rate here, I wanted to be able to provide some guidance as to what the inflation rate has traditionally been over the last 15 years in each of the countries in which we primarily do work. Now, since this is Honduras, you can see that according to this chart, the average inflation rate has been 5.14% over the past 15 years. And you can see it shows up in this box. And ultimately this is a free-form box, but it would probably be advisable to use that inflation rate if appropriate. And you'll see if I go back over here that it shows up right as I type it. Now if I choose to use something different, you'll also see that it shows up on the worksheet as well. This will be a locked cell, so you won't be able to type into this cell any longer. So if you want to change the inflation rate, then it will have to you have to do it on this worksheet. Now, just as a note here, while I am on this worksheet, that if you're doing a project and trying to estimate and design for a project in another country, you can go here and click from the drop-down menu. Let's say we're going to want to do, this is actually an estimate for Guatemala. And it automatically populates and tells you what the inflation rate is for that country. And I can do this for any country, whether it be Hungary or even Egypt. And you'll see the numbers change. Also, the number in this box will change depending on whatever this exchange rate is. So just for the moment, if I said that we were doing this in Uganda instead, their currency is the shilling, you can see that it tells you the average inflation rate in Uganda is 7%. But I'm going to go ahead and back here and say that we're working in Honduras, as I said before. So I'm going to change that back to lempiras. See, change this back to 5.14, and I'm going to use and declare and say that is the inflation rate for this community. Okay, this section has no bearing. It does not import into any other worksheet. This is only a guide, and this is only if you can select the country here. But you always have to input an inflation rate into this box, because this is what ultimately shows up in this part of the worksheet here. Alright, moving on, we'll say a container size is 20 liters. We'll say the commission for the Safe Water Committee, 5%, for the operator, 10%, and for operators in delivery service, tap operators, 15%. I'm going to say in this community, it's a somewhat larger community, I'm going to say 50% penetration rate, which will serve 250 houses on a day-to-day basis, basically saying that each day 250 houses are going to use this project every single day. I'm going to say 8 liters per person per day, gives me 2 containers per household per day. And let's see, anticipated revenue collection efficiency, I'm going to say 80%. That means that out of all the money that could be made in this community, that the treasurer will receive 80% of that. And that includes sometimes money is lost by giving out free water, and the tap operator is not able to collect, and sometimes money is potentially mismanaged. Sometimes intentionally, or most times unintentionally. So I'll just say that out of all the water that is sold in the community, the committee sees 80% of that come into their hand. All right, so now that we're done filling out the general information and done filling out the targets, again, the only change to this that you've probably seen so far is filling out this inflation rate. And really, this is to bring you to this worksheet, so it provides a guidance to what to be filling in this worksheet in the future. All right, so this brings me to the final section, which I said we're going to fill out the operational costs in this section as well. Again, this has shown, you see the commission started showing up here, and I think in this community we are going to use a living water treatment system. So there will be chlorine and alum, and the way, if you recall, is to turn those on, is to change this to a 1, and change this also to a 1, and then we also ask that everybody that's filling this out just to make sure and validate that this information seems accurate. If you go ahead and fill in your own price for lempiras here, and you say that actually the price is 100 lempiras, you'll see the numbers automatically change. So there's some default values in dollars, but again, if you choose to put in your own price, it will automatically change and it will use your local currency. The same goes for alum. Again, just to make sure that these are valid. If I keep going down through here, this is no different. Let's say that there is a diesel generator. I'm going to turn that one on as well. And there's this new cell here called percent production utilizing the generator. And what this simply means is, in the past, this financial sustainability worksheet has estimated that when a generator is used, it's used 100% of the time. Now, most of our projects, this is not true. The generator is used as a backup source. It's used maybe after the sun goes down and the solar panels can no longer generate energy, or is maybe hardly used at all, and maybe it's something that's only used 5% of the time, only on occasion. Anyway, it's asking you to estimate how much of the time do you think the generator will be used in this project out of all the water production for that month. Now, most of the time, again, you'll probably be using solar power, so a good majority of this the diesel generator probably shouldn't come into play, but now this is asking you to estimate how much the generator is used so that it can appropriately bring in the appropriate amount of fuel and not assume that 100% of the project is using the diesel generator. And the same goes for electricity. Now, I said that I'm going to assume in this project that that there is no electricity, so I'm going to leave this one off. Also, you can see it has a similar number here, percent production using electricity. So, if in a grid project that doesn't have solar power, you'll probably turn this one off, and turn this one on and say that's 100%. But maybe there's a case where the grid power is not very reliable. So we'll say that actually there is a generator. It's 85% of the time we're going to have electricity, and then 15% of the time we're going to have a diesel generator. Again, so this is the likely scenario. You can see that these add up to 100. This would be a situation where there is no solar panels and it's a grid project. This is all just to provide more accurate costs in the operational costs section of this worksheet, because before they were being overestimated. Okay, after explaining all this, I'm going to go back to the scenario that I'm working with, which I said was no electricity in this project from the grid, but there is going to be a diesel generator, and I'm going to say it is going to be present working 25% of the time. The other 75% of this will be solar powered, which has no operational costs associated with it. I'm going to say yes, we are going to do community visits to the community after transitioning. You may determine in your program that you're not going to do this, and that's maybe perhaps the government has a responsibility to do this instead. But I guess in this case, I'm saying that yes, Water Mission will be planning to visit the community. And again, it'd be great. There's default values in U.S. dollars, but it'd be great if you also felt that you could input your own values, and you'll see the numbers change as appropriately as you fill in the local currency as well. For the most part, this is all the same. There's been some rearrangement of cells, but primarily the information that goes into here has not changed. And finally, there's a distribution vehicle cost estimator. Leaving this one off for the moment. In a follow-up video, I will go through what this section means. But just in a couple quick sentences right now, if you are installing a project that requires distribution vehicles, as in the project actually has a motorcycle or has a car or has a truck that they're using to deliver water, then this is a section that you would want to turn on. But in this case, I'm saying this project, there is none of this, and people are going to walk to each of our tapping points in this community. Again, look further in the video series if you want to see how the distribution vehicle is factored into this financial sustainability worksheet, as in this has also been a significant improvement. Okay. So then, now that I'm done filling out this section, if I go back to the financial summary worksheet, you see that some of these costs have now imported. You see the fuel for the generators, as well as the chlorine and alum, since I turned those on. We've also brought in commissions. I'm going to say that there's no raw water costs. I put in a 0, and if I put in a 0 and it's a true 0, without, then it goes away and it disappears. This is to make the worksheet a little bit cleaner. On the other hand, if I put in a cost, it will show up. All right, some additional costs. I'm going to say $2,500 for regular salaries. I'm going to say there's no rent, some water quality testing supplies. How about some cellular airtime, some transportation. Again, still no raw water costs. And then upkeep and some other expenses. Now this is a different category than traditionally on the past versions of the financial sustainability worksheet. And again, going to go into greater detail in the next video. But this is just for like minor supplies that the operator may need just to keep general maintenance of the area. If it relates to a major piece of equipment, as you can see down in this section, it asks that you leave it out of the operational costs. You will account for it later. But generally, so this used to be called maintenance and upkeep, but now this has been just changed and it should be lower numbers now. It's just called generally upkeep. Maintenance will be accounted for in this section, as you can see even here. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Please, again, reach out to me if there's anything in this video or in this section that was unclear, and I'd be happy to assist.